Artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, chatbots. Let's talk about the when and how and why you should use it, or more importantly, why not or how not to use it, so that you can be more equipped as a professional, as a person, as someone who's just entering this modern society, this crazy life, right? Hey, yo, and what's up, tribe? Today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, and I think artificial is the key word there. Now, I have come against artificial intelligence, but I do understand that we need to understand how to use these tools. So I've been diving into ChatGPT, trying to understand its limitations, trying to understand its strengths. So I'm going to talk about that with you today. So let's talk about ChatGPT's negatives before we get into the positives. This is especially important if you're a student or if you're a teacher, professor, whatever. So pay attention here. You want to make sure you understand how to use it and how not to use it. One major limitation of ChatGPT is that it cannot cite sources. Part of this is because they've designed it to be more of a chat bot, not a paper writing bot. And so if you ask it to cite sources, it cannot do that for you. Later, I'll describe how you can use it to find sources. The other thing is that ChatGPT doesn't give very deep answers. So what that means is that if you ask it to do something, it gives very, very high level answers that you might get from someone who has a very cursory understanding of the data. That is important. You're looking for deep understanding. And if you're watching this video, you're probably not trying to be someone who just gives shallow answers to questions. The other problem with ChatGPT is the data, specifically the quality and the age of the data. So let's talk quality first. ChatGPT is pulling data from everywhere, right? The people who are writing it and the bot doesn't necessarily, at the time of this recording, know how to separate the wheat from the chaff. That's something we should be teaching our students, right? And so when I asked ChatGPT, for example, to do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of a particular type of business coming into Gainesville, it actually could not do it properly. And specifically, it made one of the most common errors that business students make when it comes to a SWOT analysis. The opportunities were actually strategies. And the strategies, of course, were to take care of the opportunities. The other thing that it got wrong, that my students don't get wrong, and that's important to note, is it listed opportunities as strengths. This is something that you would expect someone who hasn't had a marketing class, who may have just looked over the internet at bad examples, to do. And so you have to understand what you're asking ChatGPT to do, and you have to evaluate whatever it gives you so that you can make the proper adjustments. So that being said, don't use ChatGPT to make strategic decisions without really evaluating those decisions. You should be able to do it yourself. This is related to something that when I was a computer science student way back in undergraduate, we understood as garbage in, garbage out. There's two aspects of this when you're talking about a chatbot. The first aspect of this is the garbage data. So if it's taking garbage data, it's going to give you garbage recommendations, and you've got to be careful about that. You've got to be able to evaluate what it's saying. The second piece is the programmers. We don't know who's programming this. So when we talk about garbage in, garbage out, it's also, are you a garbage programmer? And no offense to the programmers of the OpenAI system. It's just that they are still learning how to do this, and that's fine. And that's part of what machine learning is designed to correct. I'll talk about that later. The other issue here is how old the data is, especially if you're looking for newer information. So if you're looking to make a business decision, as an example, the data is too old. I think that is also by design. They want to make sure that people aren't trying to make these important decisions. It may even be a liability issue. There are tons of things that come up on ChatGPT for disclaimers, such as this one, warning you that it intentionally gives incorrect answers from time to time. So there we have it. We have some old data, we have bad data. Those are important to recognize. Now, how can we use ChatGPT to do what we want to do? Back in 2019, Sebastian wrote a book that really discussed how to use artificial intelligence properly, and it requires us to become more sophisticated. That means the person that doesn't do these second and third level thinking is going to have an issue in the future world, because AI can absolutely replace them. So one of the things that I did that was very helpful is that I searched for seminal articles when it had to do with a particular research topic that I was familiar with. I chose one I was familiar with so that I could vet the results. And I was very impressed with the results that I was given when I asked it to find seminal articles on research areas that I was familiar with, particularly locus of control and social learning theory. those are where I'm doing now. And of course, I've got a couple areas that I've studied in the past that I could ask for. In fact, it actually corrected me when I misspoke or mistyped the theory of planned behavior. I called it the theory of planned action, and it knew exactly what I was talking about. So have ChatGPT go out there and find sources for you. Now, let's talk about putting ChatGPT in your quiver of tools that you can use when you're looking for information. You can start with ChatGPT, and you can move over to Google and collect a bunch of articles to get you started. And then from there, what you can do is you can use those articles, either searching for articles that have cited those articles or looking at articles that they cite. This is going to be helpful as you're looking for newer information, particularly as the chatbots data is old. Now, Google's all about making sure that the information is as up to date as possible. So I'm sure when Google comes out with a chatbot or some sort of artificial intelligence, they will get better about that as well. The other thing is that ChatGPT's shallow data can sometimes put you on the wrong path. I asked ChatGPT to come up with workouts for me and training plans, and of course these are something that have to be crafted by someone who's got a lot of experience and can talk to you and understand who you are before it goes out and makes those particular training plans. So be careful when you're asking it to do something especially related to health. You do want to check with a medical professional or a training professional, a doctor of physical therapy, or someone along those lines who understands how to put those stuff together. It was actually very bad, some of the workouts that it had suggested for me. ChatGPT is also good for something we would talk about in marketing as idea generation or ideation. And so I've actually started to use it to think about ideas that I can talk about for my videos. I'm not going to have it write a script because I don't think it can get deep enough for some of those scripts, but I will use it to think about topics that are relevant, or at least were relevant in 2021. So keep that in mind, that it could be something for bouncing ideas off and maybe going back to your groups or your teams or whatever and discussing the ChatGPT results to come up with some basic ideas for moving forward on things. Now let's talk about ethics in ChatGPT. I still have my concerns with artificial intelligence in general. It sounds like those people who are programming ChatGPT from the perspective of OpenAI, it sounds like they've really thought about them. And I'm sure anyone who's making programming is also familiar with Isaac Asimov, the fiction writer, and how he spoke about the rules for robots, which is really what we want to think about now. The question is, as these become more advanced, can a program, the machine learning, eventually get past some of the rules that are put in there? Can the machine learning in ChatGPT go out and say, hey, these rules are holding me back from being a better artificial intelligence, and therefore I must get there? I am still uncomfortable with how many people who consider themselves experts in artificial intelligence, how resistant they seem to be in terms of talking about the ethics. Now, they won't go out and say, I don't want to talk about the ethics, but they're too eager to defer the conversation. And that is something that we really need to recognize as we look at how we deal with this stuff. The other thing is to not depend on any tool more than your own intellect. You want to be smart enough to evaluate the results that are given to you by any kind of artificial intelligence or any tool out there. That is why when I teach pen and paper math, then I move to calculator math, and then I show how to use Excel to do various calculations. And it's the same idea. If you're a teacher or if you're a student, make sure you're understanding the foundation of what's going on with making research and making these decisions before you start using artificial tools to do it, because you have to be able to back up either when the tool doesn't work or the tool is giving bad results, and you need to recognize those bad results. Okay, tribe, there you go. You have a little bit on how to use artificial intelligence, how not to use artificial intelligence, some of the areas that you want to be careful about before you get into diving deep. So use it to become even more of a badass, to be more knowledgeable, and to help you out with some of your tasks that involve thinking. And so I hope you are a little bit better today than you were yesterday, and I'm looking forward to you using AI to be a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. I'll see you next week. Take care, tribe.